What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 38 of Lobbing Scorchers. This is Ari Lillianwall. I got producer Noah here with me. And folks, we got another dub pod here today. Noah, how you feeling, man?
I don't feel very comfortable with how many dub pods we've had in the last week, Ari.
I know.
It's been like too many, I think.
It's kind of a new thing for us. We got 2 straight dub pods. This one for an MLS game after Seattle's U.S. Open Cup victory midweek. And the Seattle Sounders are now actually 5-1-2 over their last 8 games. I was looking at the schedule and found that stat. So the dub pods have been increasing in frequency over the last few weeks, which it's always more fun to lay down a dub pod than an L pod or a draw pod. And this dub pod today, we'll be recapping Seattle's 2-1 victory at St. Louis City SC last night. They scored multiple goals in an MLS road game. One was an own goal and the other was from Jordan Morris. So a good dub, important dub on the road.
Can we close the fraud watch case officially now?
We can talk about St. Louis City SC fraud watch. I'm sure we'll get to that at some point. But we're going to be diving into this Sounders dub. And then also, match day 16 in MLS was one of the craziest slates of games all season, just in terms of entertainment value, some wild back and forth goal-filled contests. So we're going to talk about that as well in our Around the League Winners and Losers segment at the end. So it's going to be a fun episode. Good dub pod and a lot of crazy games to talk about. But before we get into that, as always, I would like to thank all of our paid subs. We have 3 new subs to thank this week. So thank you so much to Joey Pasquinelli, Brennan Murphy, and Pete Earls, new subscribers. Really appreciate you guys. Means a lot to us to have all the support. I'll go down the whole list if that's okay, Noah, because that's what we've been doing that every week. And we're still at the point where I feel like it's both doable and necessary to thank every single one of the people that have been supporting the show. We got Rhombus, we got Nate, we got Tyler, Owen, David Rodriguez, Christopher Maley, Bill Breitenbach, Mike Lentini, Aaron B., Derek Richards, Sounder Naves, Dan Pavetto, Mike Standish, Ryan Shane, Eric Stanley, my nephews, CJ and Miles Marinakis, Andy Hill, Ian Mitchell, and Greg Hoker. Thank you all so much, and thank you to Joey, Brenna, and Pete for being our new subs.
Joey Paints, new sub?
We thought it was Joey Paints when we first saw the name.
We did.
If you'd like to support the show, all you need to do is go to podcast.lobbingscorchers.com, click on the little heart, and you can pledge however much you want, $3, $5, $10, $10,000. Every little bit makes a difference, and we really appreciate everyone who has already and will support the show in the future. It means a lot to us. We're at 22 subs right now. If we could get to 23 before the next episode, that would be phenomenal.
Michael Jordan.
Of course. Yeah, exactly. In honor of MJ.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, not obligatory at all, but we do really appreciate and love everyone who's supported us to this point. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Let's get into the Sounders game, Noah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Dub pod. Let's do our lineup reaction to start. The Sounders lined it up with what is pretty much looks like their first choice 11 for this game. You had Raul Ruidiaz up top with Jordan Morris, Albert Resnack, and Obed Vargas in your band of 3. JP and Christian in the double pivot. Cody Bakes and Alex Roldan as your fullbacks, Yamar and Reagan as the CBs, and Fry and goal. So, yeah, like I said, Noah, I feel like in your typical first choice game where you have everyone at your disposal other than like Nuhu, who was suspended for this game, this is pretty much how I would expect them to line it up. And we're going to talk about it later in the show, but I think the only thing really that's subject to debate. I mean, some people think that they would prefer CR10 over Rusnak, but I mean, I just don't think that's going to happen in a first choice scenario, really. I think Rusnak is still the obvious starting number 10. But there's going to be a debate, and we'll get into it, on whether it should be Jordan or Raul at the 9. Other than that, I think they're going to keep rolling with Obed as your right mid with Christian dropped back, which I'm cool with that.
They did slot Obed into the middle, though.
Mid-game.
Which we can talk about.
Yeah, we can talk about that. But, I thought this was a good way to line it up. It's probably roughly how I would line it up. Do you have any different thoughts on that other than maybe the 9 debate, which we can get into?
Honestly, like this is, if I were to take this roster at face value, this is exactly the starting 11 that I would put out there, like including Cody Baker. I think that this was the right choice. It was nice to see a midweek matchup on the road where Brian was able to put out like basically an entire first choice 11 of the players that are healthy right now. Pedro de la Vega not being there was definitely questionable, which they said, okay, he's only going to play like home matches or limit his matches, which, you know, that's concerning when your DP is, you know, already made of jello. But what are you going to do? I thought I was not unhappy with this lineup, that's for sure.
Yeah, so I was talking about it kind of under the assumption that De La Vega is not available, which, you know, it's been kind of 50-50 right now if he's going to be. I think obviously he would be starting if he was available. The Sounders issued a statement that I saw that Jeremiah Oshan from Sounder at Heart, friend of the pod, relayed, which is that he didn't have a setback or anything. They're just managing his minutes and didn't want to put him back out there for this game. They're going to probably play him in this next game coming up against Real Salt Lake, but they're just resting him essentially.
Yeah.
So hopefully we get to actually see him play. But yeah, under the assumption that De La Vega was unavailable, this is pretty much how I would line it up. Let's get into the game itself. So the first half ended up being 0-0, which you know, I think anytime you're the road team, your first task is to manage those first 15 to 20 minutes and try and avoid the inevitable onslaught of pressure that the home team is going to try and throw at you. And I actually thought Seattle did well to do that. It didn't feel like St. Louis came out particularly on the front foot. I thought the game state was well managed, but unfortunately they couldn't create all that much themselves, but they were able to get it to half at 0-0. But I thought the first half was honestly just kind of a boring slog. And at that point, it kind of looked like a lot of the games that we've watched this season and even dating back to last season where, you know, there were some good moments, but neither team really got all that close to scoring to my recollection. Seattle certainly didn't. So, at that point, I was thinking, okay, you're probably going to have to try and get out of here with a 0-0 or a 1-1. But in the second half, Seattle finally got their breakthrough on 66 minutes. A bit of a lucky goal, but, you know, you make your own luck. Christian rolled on, creates the own goal with he was trying to cross it, deflected off Kyle Hebert and over Roman Berkey and into the net to go up 1-0, which... it was definitely a fortunate play, but a lot of those breaks have been going against Seattle this season, and it was a good sequence of play that led up to the opportunity. I thought Albert Rusnak did well to evade his defender and give Christian the opportunity from out wide to make that cross. And yeah, sure, they got a little bit of lucky, but I wouldn't say it was an undeserved 1-0 lead at that point, would you?
No, I didn't think so at all. I mean, I think the first half, like you were saying, was this. Someone asked me, "Oh, I didn't get to see the first half. You know, how was it?" I was like, I think the scoreline perfectly reflected the first half. Like it was 0-0. There was really no chance that I thought would even remotely make a difference. Once that second half started, it seemed like the Sounders had kind of settled into their tactical change, moving Obed to the defensive mid position, which I didn't like that change at all. I was really confused as to why they had moved Christian there, which clearly it paid off because of this goal that you're talking about, but I mean, generally, I thought that we looked way more dangerous with Obed at right mid instead of sticking him back at that defensive mid position, which is way less of a creative role. But that said, yeah, I thought the second half was way more dangerous. So clearly Brian Schmetzer knows more than my armchair analyst ass.
Obed did have he did create that one chance. I believe that was after he dropped back to the defensive midfield where he looked like he was at right mid on that play, but he beat his defender on the right side, made a nice run into the box, and the final ball, I think he was looking for Rusnak and that chance didn't quite come off. But it was another fun and good play by Obed on that one. And then of course Christian creates that own goal to give them the 1-0 lead. And then it was only 3 minutes later, I believe, that Seattle went up 2-0. Albert Rusnak again played an integral role on the sequence. He got the primary assist on that play. Raul Ruidiaz got the secondary assist. It was good. It was a good combination from all three of them. Perfect through ball from Albert Rusnak. He now has 5 assists on the year. And Jordan Morris, this type of chance where Jordan Morris makes a run in behind and gets a one-on-one with the goalkeeper, that's the type of stuff that he can do, and they haven't been giving him those looks nearly enough this season, so it was nice to see him get one like that. It was definitely poor defending from St. Louis City on that sequence. Anytime you let Jordan Morris get a wide-open one-on-one breakaway, that's not what you want from the St. Louis City perspective. Easy finish for Jordan, and that made it 2-0. So at that point, I don't know about you, but I didn't really feel all that safe at all. When 2-0, most dangerous lead in soccer. But I mean, in all seriousness, there's so much time left to go in the game at that point, 70th minute or so. All St. Louis City needs is one goal, and they're right back in it in terms of result. And I mean, we saw that come to fruition. St. Louis really woke up and ratcheted up the pressure after that goal. Pretty much the rest of the game, I think, with few exceptions, was Seattle absorbing pressure and St. Louis City knocking on the door, scoring. They were all over Seattle for lengthy portions of that stretch of the game, and they finally got one. Thomas Totland scored a goal in the 82nd minute to make it 2-1, and it was really hanging on for dear life from there. Seattle got lucky, honestly, to get all 3 points in this game. On the last play of the game, Joao Klaus, I didn't even write this down in the outline, but he was a fun character in this game. There's a lot going on with him. But on that very last sequence of the game, he bammed one off the post. It would have been a pretty insane shot, honestly. It's not like it was a super high percentage chance, but I don't think it wouldn't have been an unjust equalizer based on the sustained pressure that St. Louis had been putting on since the Morris goal and just the general game state. But it didn't go in. It went off the post, and Seattle takes the 2-1 victory. Joao Klaus, he had a couple of funny plays in this game. He gets very animated out there. I thought the funniest play he had was his dive when Jackson Reagan was made a challenge on him. Yeah. And it was one of those ones where Jackson was talking trash to him after it happened, because if you watch the replay, he really didn't touch him. It was a very blatant dive, but it was just funny how he was arguing after the fact, even though it was honestly like dive of the season.
Oh, it was. I haven't seen one like that in MLS in a long time. It was so bad that even the Apple TV commentators were having just taking the piss out of him and were telling him this has no business being in the game. This is garbage. They were like, he should get a yellow for this. It's the only way that
he will certainly show up on the disciplinary report this week. They fine you for those, for simulation and embellishment after the fact. And I guarantee you that he will find his name on that report. But it's one thing to dive. Soccer players do that, but I always love when they argue with the ref and the other player after the fact when he knew he was diving. An unfortunate game for Joao Klaus between that sequence and then bamming the would-be equalizer off the post. He's had a tough... Last year, St. Louis City, a lot of the success that they did have was down to the fact that he was carrying the load up top and he was scoring a lot of goals for them. And it seems like, if you watch the St. Louis fan base's reaction to that, it seems like that shot right there kind of encapsulates the season that Joao Klaus has had for them so far. I'll just hit my takeaways from this game.
Yeah.
First of all, this is why scoring multiple goals is important. We talk about that a lot on this show, and it seems like an obvious point. But if this had been a game where Seattle only had one goal, then you concede that goal in the 82nd, and it costs you 2 points. But because you scored 2 goals, Noah, you have a little bit more margin for error, which this team has not had enough of in recent months and dating back to last year. So it was nice to see them score multiple goals in another MLS road game. I mean, they scored 3 in Philly, they scored 2 in Portland, and they scored 2 in St. Louis. They won all those games. It's funny how that works. So that was one takeaway. My other takeaway is that Jordan is heating up a little bit. He scored in the Vancouver game. He scored in this game. Like I said, I think the most encouraging thing from the goal that he scored in this St. Louis game was how he scored it, that run in behind, combining with Rusnak, getting a really good high percentage opportunity and then finishing it. That's what you want to see from Jordan Morris. That, I thought this goal really, it was much more catered to his skill set than the Vancouver one, where that's a ball that's pinging around in the box and it's a deflection that falls to him and he converts it. That's a good goal, but this was more of a vintage Jordan Morris goal, and he needs to be getting those looks more often to be getting on the stat sheet with the frequency that he needs to be for this team to succeed. So that was nice to see. And my last takeaway was Albert Rusnak played pretty well. He was integral on the sequences for both goals. He doesn't get an assist on the own goal, but he set up Christian with that opportunity. And then that through ball that he hit to Jordan was perfect. The weight on it, the vision to find it. He's now got 5 assists on the year, which, ideally you want your number 10 to have more than that through this point in the season. But it was just nice to see him contributing to the team scoring, which hasn't happened enough this season.
Yeah, I kind of took a little bit away from this game, but not really much. I think my biggest takeaway was St. Louis City are probably the closest team to the Sounders right now in terms of like snake bittenness, in terms of just like offensive woes. I really don't think the Sounders had any business winning this game. They got a lucky bounce and they missed what should have put the game away, and they wouldn't have even had to worry about the pressure in the last 20 minutes with the Musovski miss, which we will talk about in depth. I think the second thing that I took away was I was a little bit confused by the player movement that Schmetzer made, although I will say that clearly it worked. I don't agree with his Reed Baker Whiting substitution for Cody Baker. I thought if anyone was going to come off, it should have been Alex. And I was really confused when he put Paul Rothrock back there at the end of the game. I thought that was just an absolutely mind-blowing substitution, and I'm continued to be confused why he refuses to play Paul Rothrock at the 9 when Danny Musovski is not hitting. He's not hitting. But yeah, I think that this team got lucky to get out of there with 3 points, which is exactly what you had said at the beginning of this episode. But it doesn't make me any more. It doesn't make me any more like excited to watch this team. It doesn't make me any more like. I don't feel any differently about this team. But what I will say is, they needed some luck to go their way, and it did, and that feels really good, and that's something that you can actually build momentum on.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say is, like we talk about it, but you make your own luck, and I thought they did that in this game. And, I agree, I wouldn't necessarily say that the way I think about this team has changed based on this one game, but I do think there's something to the fact that they're 5-1-2 across their last 8 across all comps. That is a legitimately good run of form over a sustained sample. It hasn't always been the prettiest, and like the Open Cup victories, I think they got them done, but they weren't necessarily dominant results. And then there hasn't really been all that dominant a result, I think, in that stretch. They were dominating the Philly game, but then that one kind of went haywire in the second half. This game really went haywire late in the second half. But I would say my conclusion is that they are playing better over this last stretch than they were earlier in the season. And then the other thing is that they're officially above the playoff line now. They're up to 9th place. So they're in the mix, and with a lot of games left, they have a chance to move up the table. And I don't know if I would expect them necessarily to get a top 4 seed, but I do expect this team to make the playoffs. Let's hit the agenda check, Noah.
Yeah.
I've got a few written down here. We're going to go through it. And the new segment that we debuted last week, and it seemed to be pretty popular, so we're going to do it again. The ones I have written down, you can tell me if I missed any. We got Moose, Paul Rothrock, Kalana Kosterienzi, Cody Bakes, and then I threw in the Jordan at the 9 instead of Raul agenda. That seemed to be a talking point after this game. So I got that one in there as well. Do you have another one, Rusnak? Maybe?
No, I mean, we can hit Rusnak quickly, just
Okay.
for the Rusnak haters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's just hit the ones I have written down.
Let's
here.
do it.
Moose agenda. Teetering on life support at the very best, and possibly completely dead at worst. He missed another pretty wide open shot in this game, and the A-Bear comparisons are out in full force. And I mean, it's funny. It seems like that pretty much might be what's happening, where you have a snake bit backup striker who's putting himself in good positions and just can't finish. And it's just been a rough last couple of games for the Moose agenda. And I'm sure he'll get his opportunities to reinvigorate the agenda, but like I said, right now it's teetering.
I mean, I don't know how you miss that shot on goal. Like that was
needs to be 3-1 right there.
That is an all-time bad play. Like that is an all-time bad play. And that coming off of the easiest assist of your life and you missing that, it's dead, dude. Life support is not even. You're flatlining. I think the Moose agenda is donezo. I think Moose is in the running for A-Bear XG Merchant of the Year award. And I it doesn't bring me any joy because we both were pretty high on Moose.
He had been playing well. He scored a goal in the Quakes game, and the offense had been looking pretty good when he was on the field in limited minutes, admittedly. But it's really that agenda has us torpedoed at a breakneck pace.
He can't even get it done against a USL side. Like come on.
I mean, yeah, that was a tough play. Paul Rothrock agenda. I'll let you take that one. What do you think?
I think this game he didn't really play all that well. I mean, he gave up a pretty gnarly free kick just outside the penalty area. But I think in general, like I said, he's being used constantly as this utility plug-and-play player when I don't think that is his strong suit. Like when you're slotting in a guy who has played limited MLS minutes into a what should be like a journeyman role, it's never going to turn out the way that you want it to turn out. He's going to get frustrated when he's playing fucking right back when he's supposed to be like a right mid or a striker. So is he I don't know about this Paul Rothrock as a 9. I mean, it's a good bit, but I'm not sure that's like anything that would actually, like if he would ever actually get deployed there. I think of him as more of an attacking mid. Winger or center mid. I mean, I don't know. I feel like he's played at the 9 before, right? Like he's played. I did
maybe for Toronto FC too.
Toronto.
You could be right. I'm not
so
sure.
Like it doesn't matter. Regardless, like put him in an attacking position, get him forward. Like very confused as to why he's playing right back.
Yeah, the Paul Rothrock agenda is pretty simple to me. I mean, it completely hedges on whether he unexpectedly scores goals and. If he's not doing that, then it takes a little bit of a hit, even if he's playing well outside of that, which that might be unfair, but that's like the reason the agenda got started in the first place is because he was one of the only guys on the team that was scoring. And so I don't think the Paul Rothrock agenda torpedoed in this game, but he needs to be scoring to strengthen the agenda. But I'm still happy to see him get these rotational minutes, and I don't think he played bad, other than like you mentioned, the foul that he gave up. That's playing with fire. You're playing with fire when you give up set pieces like that.
Which like I don't even think that he was trying to like be frustrated or anything. I think that he was truly just trying to play in that position and play hard. Like not to move the agenda here, but like I watched Reed Baker Whiting go into 4 back-to-back tackles, and like he's a duels merchant, so he can do it. But like if I'm Paul Rothrock, I'm like, oh, this kid's balling. I'm going out. I'm doing the same thing. And then you're not Reed Baker Whiting.
Yeah,
so.
To be fair, the entire team kind of lost control of the game state in that kind of latter part of the second half there. So it wasn't just Paul Rothrock.
Yeah.
Costa Rienzi agenda, he actually got on the field with a decent amount of time left in the game, and I don't really think there's many conclusions as to the agenda strengthening or taking a hit here. He had one play where He was trying to control the ball and got a yellow card for a handball. So he definitely made his imprint on that play. But aside from that, I mean, do you remember any much notable about that cameo? Which, to be fair, I mean, he didn't have all that much time.
He had a combination play outside on one of the wings and just was not spatially aware enough and ended up like dribbling the ball out of bounds. Granted, he had a defender like right on him on the touchline, so it's not like it was it wasn't a heads up play, but I don't think that he was good. Like I didn't like every time I saw him on the ball, I didn't feel like he was confident, and I think that that's just something where like it's going to give him time. Like I'm glad that we got to see him out there though.
Yeah, no, actually after thinking about it just now, I'm actually going to call this agenda strengthened just based on the fact that he made this trip at all, coming off scoring the game winner in Open Cup. And I just think it's the fact that he made the trip and then subbed on when he did. That's pretty solid evidence to me that he must be balling out in training. Like you don't really see Schmetz. Like Schmetz isn't necessarily a coach that's going to give you minutes just based off scoring one goal in the Open Cup. You need to be showing him stuff consistently to earn that opportunity. So the fact that he made the trip, Schmetz talked about him in pretty glowing terms, and then he didn't just make the trip, he subbed on in this game and had a decent little cameo. He must be impressing the coaching staff. Otherwise, I don't think that there's any way he would have gotten that opportunity. So even though the game itself it wasn't that notable for him, I think the agenda is on an upward trajectory right now, and I'm excited. Like the fact that it seems like he clearly impressed the coaches makes me more excited to watch him because they must be seeing something with him.
Yeah, I mean, there's literally the joke of Schmetzer's basement where he keeps all of the players that are like not good enough. And I mean, it was sick to see him get in and get minutes in this game. It doesn't mean that he's going to be a hit. It doesn't mean that he's going to be a flop. Like I don't really take anything from 25 minutes of your first MLS game. Like I don't care who you are. Like if you're a college soccer player getting your first 25 minutes on the road, man, I don't know. He didn't make any huge mistakes, so that's a dub for me.
Yeah. Cody Bake's agenda, I think continues to strengthen, to be honest. More good D in this game. Didn't make all that much happen in attack, but that's not really he doesn't need to necessarily be carrying the load in that way, and he looks like a solid starting quality MLS fullback to me. I think that there's nothing that I saw in this game that torpedoed or made this agenda take a hit.
Yeah, he had a really nice ball into Raul, who decided to not take it into the box and instead just rip one from outside the penalty area for no apparent reason, because that's the only place he wants to shoot anymore. And I thought that ball was incredible. And
yeah, I forgot about that.
And
that's
like
a good shout.
that is an actual like high percentage chance if Raul takes a touch on that, gets into the area, and actually tries to take a shot on target, which again he just doesn't want to do anymore. But I thought I constantly am impressed by that kid. Like I know that I bang on it every single day that I think that he's better than Nuhu, and like Nuhu has been in incredible form in the last few matches. I think we both would agree with that. But like
red card aside, yeah.
Red card aside, that was not. I mean, yeah. Regardless, like on average, he's played his best soccer I think in a while. I still think Cody Baker clears. And that's just me.
How about the Jordan at the 9 instead of Raul agenda? You kind of alluded to it there. I saw a lot of other discourse flying around. We've talked about it on this show the past few weeks. I've been saying I still think Raul is the starting 9 for this team. But after this game, I sympathize more with the Jordan at the 9 over Raul agenda. Raul, to be fair, he did have a secondary assist in this game. He did well to combine with Rusnak, who hit Jordan on that goal. So he's at 7 goals, 2 assists on the season, but I believe 4 of those are penalties. So him and Jordan, they have pretty much the same stat line if you for non-penalty goals. I think Raul has 3 goals, 2 assists. Jordan has 3 goals, 1 assist. So that's like for however much this gets debated, I feel like it's a little bit of a wash, because I do understand the argument that Jordan might be a better fit for this team at the 9 on how it's currently constituted. At the same time, I don't know how much evidence there is that Jordan at the 9 is going to result in drastically more goals than Rui Diaz at the 9. And then the other thing I'll say is the last 2 goals Jordan has scored, they're not exactly number 9 goals. I mean, I guess the Vancouver one, you know, he's floating near the goal, the ball deflects to him, and he does well to finish it. But the through ball breakaway, I mean, that's one that just as easily could have come with him playing out wide as it is up top. You know, I think the problem with Raul right now is he's getting his touches way too far up the field, and he's just not getting looks inside the box at all. Like you said, most of his shots are coming from distance. They're not necessarily from sustainable or repeatable sequences. I didn't mind him taking the shot that you talked about on the Cody Bakes play because that's kind of the only type of goal he's been scoring this season. And he's also shown throughout his career that he can hit those. But by the same token, he needs to be getting his touches way closer to goal. He's playing like an attacking mid right now. So if he is going to be the starting 9, I would hope that they try and drill that in training and just address that. I don't know if he's being told to play like that, but he's not getting enough looks from inside the box. He's hardly getting any. But I mean, in the time that Jordan has gotten at the 9 this season, it's not like he's been racking up tons of goals either. So it's kind of, I look at it as a choice between 2 options, neither of whom have staked a clear-cut claim for it. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, I joked in the last episode I was neither. I was neither
right.
Raul nor Jordan, but
I understand the argument against Raul, but I don't know if I agree that that Jordan has made like this clear-cut case for it either.
It just sucks because you're in a situation where you have Musovski, who you targeted and thought would be a potential where if Raul is out of form or Jordan is out of form and you don't want to play him, you can play Musovski and he can be effective, which like he looked like that in the beginning, but now you're in a situation where Musovski looks worse than Raul, and looking worse than Raul right now in this situation is like embarrassing. So, what I will say about Raul is like, he has been a genuine detriment to the attack, in my opinion. I think that a lot of the heat that Rusnak has been getting is just because Raul is like, he plays so close to Rusnak that he kind of impedes his attacking play. Like I just don't think the interplay between them is good at all. And I think that ends up being a detriment to the attack. Secondly, what are we doing ripping balls from the top of the box? Like, I was looking at the shot map after the first half from the Sounders, or going even into the second half, and it was like there was one shot from inside the box, and it was still like top. I guess if you're looking down on it, top left, barely inside the penalty area. Like, you're never going to get consistent goal scoring if that is the only place that you're ripping shots from, unless you're like Messi or something, you know what I mean? Like, and he's not that. Jordan, on the other hand, he's great if you can get him on a run, like pick your head up and play him like Albert did. And I thought that play was awesome. Like that
was textbook, like what you need to see.
Yeah, that's like, if we can continue to repeat that, I think Jordan absolutely could be a 9. But like we saw earlier in the season, where like I think you had been advocating a little bit for Jordan at the 9. I was like on the fence, but I was advocating for it. And then like I was like, okay, he's not a 9 anymore, because they couldn't repeat that. So it's really like a really, you're kind of shit out of luck either way. So like, I don't really want to pick. Do I have to pick one?
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's how it feels right now. But with Jordan getting a couple goals in the last couple weeks, I think the play might be to try and ride the hot hand a little bit and see if you can get him in form. But That being said, I also think there's an element to this, which is of Raul is, your $6 to $7 million transfer fee DP striker, and he's the leading goal scorer in the history of the club. I don't really agree that he's like an active detriment to the attack. I mean, he scored a great goal in Philly. He scored the game winner against Portland. I mean, he's got 7 goals on the season, which I realize that a lot of those are penalty kicks, but he's leading the team in goals. So I think he's probably it's a situation where honestly it will probably be rotated and mixed and matched based on matchups and on fitness. So, but it's still, I mean, it is an interesting debate that we'll probably continue to be talking about in recent weeks until neither one of them have really won all you have to do to win that job is score goals. Jordan has done that the last couple weeks, but I don't think that's really enough of a sample yet to call the debate over. So we're going to keep debating it, I guess.
Yeah, I think but even if you look at the underlying stats and the eye test, I still think that Raul is, and I was advocating for this, a super sub. Like I really think that. I don't think he can be explosive for 90 minutes anymore. And I think that in reality, if we're being honest with ourselves, if we're looking at the stats, his chances are just not there anymore. That's my take.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that he's not getting looks close enough to goal like as he needs to be. With this win, let's talk about the upcoming Real Salt Lake matchup, and then we can move on to questions.
Let's do it.
Real Salt Lake are coming off a crazy game at FC Dallas, which we're going to talk about later. They got a 3-3 draw at the last second, and they're kind of seem chosen right now. I'm not going to lie. I mean, they were down 3-0 in that game and then came back and scored in the 90th +8. But I mean, we just talked about them because Seattle just played at RSL, and I think the same thing holds true, which is that this is a top 3 to 4 team in the league right now, and they are they're pretty scary in attack with Chicho Arango leading the line and Diego Luna pulling the strings and Pablo Mastrioni working the X-Dog. I mean, this is, once again, like I said the last time Seattle played RSL, not ideal timing for this matchup. At least you have it at home, which is nice. But I don't know, especially, I mean, the last time they played, it was admittedly a pretty heavily rotated Seattle side, which it might not be this time. But I still think there's a pretty big firepower differential between these two teams right now. I mean, for Seattle, even when they're getting results, it's kind of grinded out. And RSL has the ability to thermoblast pretty much most teams in the league. So that's a long way of saying I think any result at all in this game, and you have to be happy with it, even at home, which is unfortunate because Seattle's home form, I was looking at this, Noah, has been really bad this year.
Really bad.
They've actually won 3 road games, which is good. That's tied for the second most of any team in the West. Minnesota United has won 4 on the road, and then there's a bunch of teams that have won 3. But 3-5-1 in MLS it's a good road record. But they're 1-1-4 at home. So really, just based on form and quality, I would say that a draw here is not the worst result. But honestly, it's not the case. Actually, like, they need to be winning their home games, and it doesn't really matter that Real Salt Lake is one of the best teams in the league. Like, Seattle's got to win this game. But I don't know. Real Salt Lake is really, really good. One of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk later about their last matchup with FC Dallas, but Chicho Arango did play a full 90. So, I mean, we'll see how many minutes he gets on Wednesday. But the rest of their team, they absolutely rotated. Like, they got most of their starters out in the 60th minute, which for me, that scares me. Like, I am not stoked to play against basically a team that has match form, but got out quickly enough, like got off the field quickly enough to where they're still rotated, they're still going to be fresh, and they're still probably going to be able to play 90 if they need. I'm not stoked to see this. I will be there no matter what. But Diego Luna and Chicho Arango are... I'm not even going to lie. Like, I love watching them play together.
They're a fun team to watch. It's just, I mean, I just hope it plays out differently. The last game, which with Seattle was rotated, but it was non-competitive.
No, it was like embarrassing.
It was only 2-0, but that really, like, could have been 4 or 5-0.
Yeah.
Like,
but, like, what do? We just played our full strength lineup. Like, how are they going to line this up? I mean, we know probably Pedro de la Vega will get minutes in this game, but again, how many minutes is he going to get? Who's going to be
and
rotated?
can you really be banking on him to carry the load when he's hasn't played a lot lately and he's just getting back to fitness?
Yeah, like are we?
It'll be good to see him get out there, but I don't know how much it moves the needle just because he's still getting fit.
Yeah, I think it was the right decision, like to play all of our starters away from home on the road, but where we somehow have better form. But it is gonna be a tough one coming back home on short rest after this is like week 4 or 5 of 2 games in a week. It's a tough scene, and I'm not feeling too great about it personally.
Yeah, I'm not either. But if you can get a win in this game, you can get up more towards the 6th or 7th spot in the West, depending how other results go. And more importantly, you could just keep this current run that they've been on going. I mean, they've won 5 of 8 across all comps, so you want to keep building on that momentum if you can. It's just, you're playing one of the best teams in the league. Let's hit questions, Noah, if you got them teed up.
Absolutely.
Thank you to everyone, as always, for submitting. We'll try and hit as many as we can.
I'm going to start mine off with a personal question just because I've been thinking about it since this episode started. We talked about the Raul Jordan debate. What do you do if you are Craig Weibel and Brian Schmetzer in the summer? Do you buy Raul down? What do you do? What is your thoughts on that? Or do you just not envy their decision making?
Yeah, I just don't envy their decision making. But I mean, I don't think you can buy Raul down. He would have to agree to that, would he not? I don't think. Yeah, I don't think that
you'd have to renegotiate or something.
I mean, I think a lot of people want them to buy him out, but I don't think that's going to happen either. I think he's going to be on the team for the rest of the year, and I think for the most part. This is the roster that you're looking at for the rest of the season, and the way they're probably thinking of it is if we can get De La Vega healthy and contributing, that should offer the same type of boost as a big move would make, because he was their big move, and he just hasn't been able to play this year. So I think that's what they're hoping for and banking on. Seems risky to me, but when you make a big investment like that, you're probably going to want the data to see if it's going to pay off or not before you do anything drastic on top of that.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what they do. Like, I don't think that it would not make sense to buy him out, but you only do that if you have someone to come in and replace him.
Exactly.
I think there are a lot of good players coming on the market this summer, though. Like, they've been in Europe. Listen, how much are they going to realistically spend is the question. I don't think all that much, but it could be I don't know. I think this summer could get interesting, but then again, when have we ever signed a difference maker in the summer? Oh, wait, Nico Ladero. Who knows?
I mean, that was kind of the Garth Lagerwey special back in the day. So
yeah, exactly. I thought this one was a fun one, touching back on the St. Louis game. How many yellows did St. Louis avoid today conservatively?
Yeah, it was physical out there. It was definitely there was a lot of fouls. There probably could have been more yellow cards. João Klaus was doing his thing. It was a good old-fashioned Midwest throwdown.
Yeah. Someone else asked, is everyone in the Midwest just a professional wrestling enthusiast?
They were, yeah, exactly. They were looking a little like Sporting KC.
Here, this one's from Andrew Jensen. Loved seeing Rothrock and Kosarienzi locked down that back right area at the end of the game. They swarmed the ball and brought that late energy that I wanted to see. We talked a little bit about that, but having two not super tenured players back there, how do you think they saw out the end of the game?
I think in general, over the last few weeks, not just in this game, the young guys have been playing well, and they've been meaningfully contributing to this uptick in form for sure. I mean, Rothrock, Kosarienzi, Cody Bakes, we've talked about all of them. I mean, obviously Obed. So that is, if you're looking for encouragement over the last few weeks, I think that is that's definitely something to point to.
Jordan showed a reputable run of play goal that gives us more options than a wild shots from the 25. Why has he still played 0 minutes at the 9 in the 4-2-3-1 this season?
I mean, I think you're probably going to see him play more in the next few weeks. It's a situation where if there is a hot hand, you ride it, and he's the hot hand right now with a couple goals against Vancouver and against St. Louis.
This one from Tio. Why does 3 points on the road still feel like a tie?
Because St. Louis City was mobbing at the end and got pretty unlucky to not tie it on that shot by Joao Klaus. At the same time, I wouldn't necessarily look at it like that. I mean, did they get lucky? Yeah, but that shot didn't go in. It's a dub, and you take dubs however you can get them right now, especially in a road game in a hostile environment. This is a different point, but that St. Louis City Stadium looks awesome. I want to go there one day.
Yeah, no, that place looks insane. There's a lot of stadiums I want to visit, but those soccer-specific stadiums make me a little bit jealous.
On my list. It's on my list.
That is kind of all that I saw. I feel like we hit everything else. Do you have any questions, Ari? What have you been pontificating in your brain?
I don't know. I think we hit most of it. I think the interesting thing to keep an eye on right now is what they do up top at striker.
Yeah.
And I think it's about I think Jordan's going to get some run at it. And like I said, I do think they'll rotate and mix and match because they have so many games right now. But I think if Jordan can he's wanted this role for a long time, right?
Yeah.
He's talked about how he feels most comfortable up there. That's the position he enjoys playing the most. That's what he wants to play. And I think he'll get his opportunity to win the job. And if he keeps scoring and actually wins the job and gets higher percentage looks than Raul has been getting, and he's converting them, then it could make a huge difference for this team, especially when you already have the new element of Obed at right mid. It could actually be a tweak that leads to improved results, theoretically. So we'll just have to see. And then I guess the other thing would be, can Rusnak keep build on this game? It was nice to see him contribute to a couple of sequences that led to goals. That's what you need from your number 10. But I mean, he has not been doing that enough this year. So if he actually gets on a good run, that would make a big difference too.
I do have one more too, because I just thought of this. Reed Baker-Whiting gets the most minutes he's seen this season. How do you think he looks? Do you think he looked better than Cody Baker? Do you think he looked better than Nuhu?
Well, I thought he looked all right, but on the sequence where St. Louis scored, I think you could, if you're slicing up the blame pie, you could argue, like imagine the outrage if Nuhu had done that exact same thing, So I think we got to be honest about that. But that being said, I'm not going to be too harsh on him for that, just because he's been injured all season. He's working his way back into the fold. There's probably rust to knock off there. And also, I think it's pretty clear. We've talked about it, but RBW theoretically has as high, if not the highest ceiling of any of these academy kids coming up. There's been a lot of reports of him getting scouted by big time European clubs. So for whatever reason, we haven't gotten to see him play all that much, especially with the injury that he's had this year. But the people who scout these things and know more about it than I do are very high on RBW. And I think, the one defensive error he made in this game notwithstanding, I'm definitely looking forward to. I want to see that. I want to see him make good on why he has become such a highly touted prospect, which he hasn't gotten the minutes or had the fitness to really do to this point in his career.
Yeah, I don't think he covered himself in glory with the basically Nuhu-esque defending that he did, letting his man get goal side of him and poke that in. I think he knew that he screwed up there. You could tell he was trying to dive back in on that goal. But he is a duels merchant. That kid, you put him 1v1 against anyone, he's probably winning. Even Nuhu, I think he'd probably beat Nuhu in a 1v1 duel. That kid is a beast. I want to keep seeing him play. I didn't love that Cody Baker had to come off the field for him to play, but I get it. I get it.
I would say he, as I understand it, he's got a lot more upside as an attacking fullback than Cody Baker does.
But I didn't see him getting the attack this game. But
I'm saying just in general, skill set wise,
Fair.
This team has been lacking really dynamic attacking fullback. Remember Jovan Jones and Brad Smith?
Dude, I miss Jovan Jones every day.
Yeah, if I could air a grievance on the roster construction right now. This team was so much more consistently dangerous. You know, I know a lot of people hated on Brad Smith when he was here. That guy was a good attacking fullback. His wide service was really, really good. And he was even a little bit goal dangerous himself sometimes. But I think if there are a few changes I would make to this roster construction, but that's like right up there for me. Like, I want another Jovan Jones, Brad Smith skill set type fullback. I think this team has honestly lost quite a bit since they've started lacking a player with that type of skill set. And Alex Roldan has showed flashes of being that type of fullback at times, but honestly, not really this year. I don't think he has a single assist this year, and even at his very, very best. I mean, Jovan Jones had a double-digit assist season. Brad Smith, he created a lot of chances and got a lot of assists from out wide. If RBW could become that type of player, that'd actually be huge.
Yeah, no, that would be sick. Anyone who can do that. Like, I think that's when this team is so heavily dependent on service from the wide area, especially from wingbacks and fullbacks. Like, man, we don't have that right now. So it's been tough. So shout out RBW, man. Get back to form, kid.
I'm excited for him to get more minutes in the coming weeks here, hopefully. Let's jump around the league, Noah, and then we can get out of here. Does that sound good?
I'm an MLS sicko. Let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, I've got my winners and losers, but honestly, I kind of just wanted to talk about this match day 16 slate real quick because there was some absolutely incredible games. You know, it was one of those slates where it just kind of reinforced why I love MLS. You know, is it the highest quality league on earth? No, obviously
yes,
not.
It is.
Yeah. But entertainment value wise, there are a few leagues that can match up to this. MLS was absolutely hammered last night. The game of the match day for me was Toronto FC versus FC Cincinnati. They combined for 7 goals. And there was a few takeaways from this game. FC Cincinnati ended up winning 4-3 on a late game winner. But first takeaway from this was, I don't know how much of this game you saw, Noah, but Lorenzo Insigne was on one. Like, he has not been able to make the type of impact that Toronto FC would have hoped for. They released the salaries recently. I think he's the second highest paid player in the league.
I did see
They're
that,
paying him like $15 million this year, and he's been mostly injured and largely ineffective for them. At least you could say that last year. I think when he's played this year, he's been a little better, but he was also injured. But this game was kind of a reminder of the pedigree and talent level that he has. He was dominating. He was tearing it up all night, and so it was 3-3 late in the game, and Insigne lined up. It would have been one of the craziest goals all season. He somehow got a shot off from way outside the penalty box and rang the crossbar, and it would have been an unbelievable goal to cap off what was a stellar individual performance from him, but it went off the post, and then Sergio Santos from FC Cincinnati ended up scoring the game winner at the other end to give FC Cincinnati the 4-3 victory. But I think Lorenzo Insigne and just Toronto FC in general, we've talked about it a fair amount on this show, but John Herdman, my take is that I think John Herdman might be just like a really good coach. Like, he did really good work with the Canadian national team, even though they kind of flopped at the World Cup, but they won the octagonal. And in general, I think he's credited for getting them into a place where they became a pretty legitimate force in CONCACAF, and they're up there with the U.S. and Mexico competing for the top dog in CONCACAF, and a lot of that's to do with John Herdman. And so far, I got to say, I'm pretty impressed. Like, Toronto FC are much better than I think most people expected. He's got Insigne playing well again, and Bernadeschi didn't play in this game, but he's been playing pretty decent ball for them this year, and they look a lot more like the types of players that they thought they were getting when they signed him, which they really did not at all last year. And so even though Toronto lost this game, I just think in general that they look actually pretty good this year. And as far as FC Cincinnati, I mean, I think they have an argument as the best team in the league right now. There's still probably a couple that I would put above them, but not many. They're going to be competing for the Shield. And I thought what was really impressive was I mean, two things. Number one, they've lost 5 starters from the team that won the Shield last year, and they're contending for the Shield again. So Pat Noonan and Chris Albright clearly just know really what they're doing as far as roster construction goes. And then also, they were really rotated for this game, and their depth came through and scored 4 goals, which, like, you know how when Seattle goes into a game with a rotated lineup and you're basically like, all right, well, you're scoring 1 goal at the absolute most, and you're basically just praying that your depth can get you a point in this game. When FC Cincinnati rotates, they still score 4 goals on the road, so that's sort of the difference between where the Sounders are at right now and where the actual MLS elite are at right now.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting too to talk about, because it's like we talk about like MLS 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, or what are we on, like 8.0 now? Like, the Sounders haven't kept up with that. I was this FC Cincinnati fan when they were in the USL, because Andy Craven, some may know, shout out, he played for them, and I was friends with Andy, so I was always a pretty big fan of them. And when they went on that historic Open Cup run to the final, it was even better for me. But man, I have loved watching that team ascend from a wooden spoon, worst team to ever play in the MLS, to now this like unstoppable juggernaut with one of the best roster constructions in MLS. And I don't know, that's just cool to watch as a fan of the league, and really shows you like this is a team that you should be taking notes from. Toronto, on the other hand, Little Italy, they rock. I love the vibes there. They're hilarious. John Herdman is a great coach. Like, I think anyone would be lucky to have him. But yeah, wow. I watched a little bit of that, but man, just a goal scoring fest. I love that.
It was a great game, and it wasn't just the fact that they were scoring goals. It was just the timing of it, back and forth. Like, I was absolutely enthralled watching that game. FC Dallas versus RSL was also insane. We mentioned it, but Dallas, oh my God, they're down so bad. They were up 3-0, and they let RSL mob back and tied it at the death. You could have made an incredible highlight reel of goalkeeper howlers from the games this week. Zach McMath had 2 of them for RSL in this game. And so FC Dallas, like, they really did not deserve the 3-0 lead that they had. Like, 2 out of their 3 goals were ones that Zach McMath he bungled it really badly. But FC Dallas let RSL score 3 straight times to get away with the tie. And Nelson Palacio scored the equalizer in the 98th minute. Like, all FC Dallas had to do was hold on for 10 more seconds, and they would have won the game at home. But instead, it's a pretty great result for RSL, considering their goalkeeper committed 2 howlers, and they were on the road. And just FC Dallas, I mean, they're having one of the toughest seasons in the league right now. And we dive into the hot seat a little bit every week. I almost feel like Nico Estevez is one that doesn't get talked about, but FC Dallas have been one of the worst teams in the league this year.
That's so funny.
And this game encapsulated everything that's wrong with them right now. I mean, you actually are up 3-0 at home against one of the best teams in the league. You're about to take care of business, and then you give up 3 straight goals at home, which just can't happen.
Yeah, that was so funny, because right before the Sounders game started, I saw that Dallas was up 3-0, or maybe it was during the game, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Good for Dallas. Like, maybe
they're turning it around."
Yeah, maybe they're turning it around. And then I flipped on, like, after the Sounders match, I just was scrolling through results, and I was like, No, that makes more sense. I also saw, I think Zach McMath had the lowest like player rating on FootMob of anyone this week.
If you haven't seen the Howlers, you got to look them up. They're incredible.
That's a good bit. That's funny.
Yeah. There was another, that's a good segue. There's another goalkeeper howler in Colorado, Minnesota, which was also 3-3 and had a big comeback. The Loons were up 3-1, but Kevin Cabral, who, suddenly has been contributing for the Colorado Rapids after famously not doing that when he played for the LA Galaxy. But he scored a brace, and then Rafael Navarro tied it. But Minnesota goalkeeper Dane St. Clair had a really bad howler in this game that contributed to Colorado getting back in it. And then Timo Pukki, who is Minnesota United's DP number 9, he could have won this game for them. He had a play where he rounded the keeper and had an open net from a kind of tough angle, but a player of his skill level and pedigree, you expect him to finish it. It was a pretty bad miss. And it ends up at 3-3, which for Minnesota United, honestly, 3-3 on the road is normally not a bad result, but their head coach, Eric Ramsey, who I'm pretty high on, after the game, he was pissed. He was like, we totally lost control of this game. When we're up 3-1, we need to be closing that out. We didn't do that. They had their striker miss the game winner, but it was just another wild game. All three of these games, I was like, what is going on? Like this, usually if you get one game like that in a match day slate, you're like, okay, that was the clear cut best game. But all three of these games, it was just goals flying back and forth, dramatically timed goals where the results were flipping. I had a great time watching it.
That rocks. I didn't see that match, but it sounds exciting to me.
Yeah, you gotta just pull up all the highlights. Honestly,
I actually do want to, when I get home, watch the wrap up show, which I've actually really enjoyed, the MLS wrap up show.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good stuff. One of my jobs has been taking clips from those wrap up shows and creating the videos and uploading them. And they had a good contenders pretenders segment. But yeah, the season pass crew does good work. For the winners section, I would pick honestly both Toronto and Cincinnati. I know Toronto lost, but I still feel like they came out of that with dignity, and they provided a great game and great entertainment. And in general, they're on an upward trajectory. RSL also, you have to give them winners section for getting the tie there. Which that's ominous for Seattle because they're about to play RSL. And then also I would say the Colorado Rapids, even though it was only a tie. For the losers, Atlanta United, man.
Oh yeah,
Gonzo Pineda, he might be done.
Welcome home, King.
1-0 loss to LAFC at home, which is bad enough. But Brad Guzan, their goalkeeper, got a red card. Which was that was a funny play. You got to look up the highlight of that as well if you haven't. Thiago Almada seems depressed. He wants out. Giacomakis is hurt right now. And it just seems like a situation where the writing is on the wall. I think they're probably going to make the change, not because Gonzo Pineda is a bad coach or they consider him as such, but just to change the vibes and the atmosphere. I think out of every team in the league right now, Atlanta United is down the most bad, which I think that's funny, as an outsider, because Atlanta United, when they came into the league, they took the league by storm. You got to give them credit for that. Remember the Almiron Joseph days? Mm-hmm. They were putting up 65, 70 points a year. They won MLS Cup that year with Almiron and Joseph. Joseph had a season for them where he scored 30-plus goals. And their fans thought, they were like, oh, MLS is easy. We're going to be on top forever. And they liked to talk about it like that. And, I remember thinking at the time, it's all sunshine and roses for you guys right now, but eventually the reality check will probably hit. It comes for everyone eventually, and it's come for them in spades. They really have not lived up to that early start in MLS for the last 3 or 4 years, and now they're in probably the worst run of form in the league right now. And Gonzo Pineda, Seattle Sounders legend. The seat is past hot at this point.
Yeah. I don't know how he's alive right now.
They're in a pretty congested portion of their schedule, so maybe they're waiting to make the move until the new coach can not be thrown into sort of just totally the deep end. But
maybe
it just feels like it's going to happen any day now. Every week they kind of find a new way to lose in excruciating fashion.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for Atlanta, to be honest. One of my favorite quotes of all time was from Taylor Twellman on his podcast, years ago when they came into the league. He was like, Move over, Seattle. Atlanta are the new kings of MLS, and they're here to stay. And I just thought that was so funny. I clipped it and put it on Twitter, and every once in a while I'll go back and find it and retweet it, just because it was such a bad take. But he was on the Apple TV broadcast talking about how terrible they are and talking about how their fall from grace and all that. And I just thought that was pretty funny because I'm like, yeah, even you even had the pundits tricked. It's
wild. Sporting Kansas City, the club of professional wrestling enthusiasts, they lost 2-1 to the Timbies. And
Phil Neville is here to stay, baby. Neville Ball.
Phil Neville earned himself at least another month, which, that's arguably good news for the Seattle Sounders. We'll see what happens with that. But it was it was funny because Evander scored the game winner for the Timbers, and it was kind of just another example of him like not really doing anything all game and then just coming out of nowhere with the goal. But when I was watching that game, I was rooting for it to be a 1-1 just because that wouldn't have been good for Sporting Kansas City because they're struggling a lot right now and they really need to win a game. And it would not have been good at all for Portland because they were playing the game at home and they also really need to win. So when it looked like it was going to be 1-1, I was like, okay, this could actually end up being the ideal result. We might get red hot coach press conferences from both Phil Neville and Peter Vermees from the same game. That would have been a dream scenario. I'm bummed out that we missed out on that. I haven't watched the Phil Neville presser, but I'm sure he was hyped up about how they are now the greatest team in the league. So I'll probably dive into that, but it probably will be another red hot Peter Vermees press conference, which with how Sporting Kansas City has been playing lately, there's been a lot of those. And I love a good red hot Peter Vermees presser.
Yeah, I love Peter V. I've probably said this before.
I hope they never fire him.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like he's like a staple of this league. Like everyone knows Peter V. When I worked at Sporting, we even had like a bet where if you could get a photo of him smiling, everyone had to take you out to lunch. Like I love that man. I don't care if he's a bad coach, a good coach, does whatever. That dude is a legend. Club legend, MLS legend.
Press conference legend.
Lifetime appointment. He is the Sporting Kansas City czar of professional
and I think
wrestling.
He's got one for as much as we talk about the hot seat, I don't get the vibe he's on it at all. And then,
he might own the team.
I think he does. And then finally, to wrap it up here for the loser section, I got the Vancouver Whitecaps. All right.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we covered this whole saga with them selling the most tickets that they've ever sold. Because everyone thought they were going to get to watch Messi, and then none of the Barca boys except Jordi Alba, I think, traveled. So everyone spent all this money on tickets, and then Messi wasn't even playing. And the entire city, I guess, had a Messi festival and he just wasn't there. So that was unfortunate. But then, with Messi and Suarez not playing, and Busquets not playing, you have actually an opportunity to give all these fans who wanted to watch Messi and don't get to a show and beat Inter Miami and kind of maybe offset some of the negative vibes from that whole thing. And instead, they got bammed on by Bob T. Noah.
Yeah, Bob T is the greatest player of all time.
Bob T, who even cares about getting to watch Messi when Bob T is going to pull out a goal like that? But Vancouver lost 2-1. Bob T bammed on him. And the Whitecaps are just down bad in general. We've been talking about them like an upper tier in the West team all year. If you look at their record and point total right now, it's pretty much, they have 19 points. Seattle has 17.
Yeah.
And it's really over the last month, they've kind of torpedoed. I haven't watched all their games in full to speak on necessarily what's going on with them. But, I guess my takeaway is that the Whitecaps might honestly not be as good as we thought they were.
Wait, are you issuing? Do I hear the signal? Are you issuing a fraud watch warning?
Yeah, I am. I am.
Oh no!
Not for Scottish Messi individually because I think Scottish Messi still cooks, but the Whitecaps they're not helping their case for fraud watch right now. Losing to that Inter Miami squad at home with Bob T scoring that goal on you, down bad.
Yeah. It was really funny because they did the whole bit of like, oh, we want Messi. And then Vancouver's like, no, shut up. We have Messi at home. and then Messi at home couldn't get it done.
Yeah.
That was, I don't know. Is that a good bit? Is that something?
I think it is, honestly.
Yeah. I did say that I would have paid $1.5K to watch Bob T, and I just want to say I am vindicated. I am vindicated.
That's what's funny about it is we were joking about that, and then he scored that goal.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's a good place to call it a wrap here for episode 38. Thank you so much, as always, to everyone for tuning in. We really appreciate the increased listenership that we've experienced over the last month or so. Thank you again so much to all our paid subs. We love and appreciate you guys. Write us a review, 5 stars. Tell everyone you know about the show.
Share it with Bob T.
Share it with Bob T. Also, I forgot to mention it earlier, I think, but please sub to the Lobbing Scorchers YouTube. We are on the road to 100 subs. We're almost there. We will be back at you with episode 39 after this upcoming RSL game. Until then, we out.
Peace.